was a very architectural conversation we had tonight.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us?
Got to talk more about bumwad.
Neil can go for hours with bumwad.
Oh, shut up.
Do a whole episode on bumwad.
All right. See, all of this stuff, this is how Evan creates the intro to the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? So this is where
guess what I just wrote down?
We should stop talking.
Exactly. If you don't want to be a victim of the intro... Yeah.
I'll have to edit my audio before I send it. I'm still recording.
Don't worry. He's got it too.
Welcome to the Archispeak podcast, the podcast for architects by architects, where we discuss all things about architecture. I'm Neil Pan. Each episode, Evan Troxel, Cormac Phelan, and me invite you in on the conversation as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the block more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we gather around the water cooler and talk about this profession we call architecture. It's time for some Archispeak. I died in South Africa, only outlined my body in Tiffany blue. When I died, I drove right in and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank and you. So welcome to episode 27 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
I'm Cormac Phelan.
And we have a guest.
Our first guest ever. This is awesome. It is Mark R. LePage from EntreArchitect.com. And welcome, Mark. Thanks for coming.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me here. I'm super excited to be your first guest on Archispeak.
And we're excited to have you. This is really cool. And we've been talking backstage, I guess, for the last year about when we were going to start doing this, and we felt like the first episode of our second season here, episode 27, would be a great time to start, including some guests along throughout the shows. So welcome.
Thank you. It's awesome. I can't wait to talk about a bunch of nothing.
That's right.
All right.
That's our goal every week.
That's what we're here for.
Well, first off, we have a couple of friends of the show to announce.
That's right. So this week we've got two new friends of the show. And the first one is Heimet Kalsa, who listened to, I'm going to say, every episode of the podcast as he did a drive from Arizona to Texas. And we all know that road is a long, narrow, boring road. And it was pretty cool that he took the time to listen to us the whole way. Yeah, Cormac?
Were you talking about the road was long and narrow or listening to our show?
Yes, I was. And so Heimet, he gave us $10, and thank you, Heimet. You are now officially a friend of the show. And then our second friend of the show this week is Alistair Story, all the way from New Zealand, the other side of the world. And thanks, Alistair, for donating $10 to the show. And he was also one of our supporters for buying a T-shirt, and so he threw in another $10 because it costs a lot to ship a T-shirt to the other side of the planet. So thanks, Alistair. We really appreciate it, and thanks for being a listener and a friend of the show.
Something I wanted to bring up just briefly is I was doing some sketching on a project this weekend, or this past weekend, and I tweeted out a pro tip, quote-unquote pro tip,
architecture
architecture pro tip, yeah, exactly. Where if you're tearing off a piece of flimsy and you can turn it over to sketch on, it kind of keeps the edges from rolling up on you. And one of our listeners and friend of the show, I think, who commented on the word flimsy. I was like, "What is that, flimsy?" And so anyway, I wanted to just ask you guys, first off, if you have a color preference, and then what do you call flimsy or trace? I have a list here, so I'm going to read off the list.
We should take a poll.
You guys tell me.
Take a poll.
We could take a poll.
No, actually.
All right.
What? Before you get into reading it off,
okay.
let's find out what everybody, in the circle calls it. see if it's on the list, because I've honestly have never heard the word flimsy.
Me neither. Must be a West Coast thing.
I had heard it, but
Yeah.
it sounds pretty lame.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks for your support.
Yep. So no votes for me for flimsy. But let's also do this online with Twitter. So everybody who's listening, go ahead and tweet us at Archispeak at ARCHISPK. No, it's spelled different, so listen carefully.
Yes, and that's a Twitter restriction. We couldn't get the whole thing.
That's
in there.
right. And so tell us what you call it. All right, it'd be fun to kind of take a poll here and see what the winner is.
So Evan, step up. What do you call it?
Trace.
Trace.
Simple. Yeah. Favorite color?
Yeah.
Is I use all the colors. I really don't care. If I had to pick, I'd probably go with the canary yellow.
Ooh, the bright stuff.
Yeah, the bright stuff.
Okay. So what about you, Cormac?
Trace or trash? I've kind of interchangeable, only because I had a boss who was like, "Go give me a roll of trash." Like, okay.
That's what my desk looks like when I use it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking at my stack that's next to my desk, and I've got 13 rolls, and they're about almost even.
One for each pencil?
I've got more yellow than white, but if I'm drawing something that I'm going to scan to ultimately take into Photoshop, it's always on white. If I'm just, kind of going with the flow and sketching, it's always on yellow.
Which yellow? The bright yellow or the more cream-colored yellow?
The cream color. I call it butter paper.
Okay. All right.
So you have three names.
Well, I guess, but I call butter paper more the color than the name. But yeah.
But that's a good name. I like that.
Butter paper.
Butter paper.
So what about you, Mark?
You guys still use that stuff?
Every day.
Shut up. Can we cut you off now?
I thought you guys were all digital and stuff.
No, that's
No,
Evan.
No, that's you.
Oh. White. White, and it's Trace, like the cool kids.
See, there you go.
Okay.
But I don't really
right.
use it very much. Anne Marie uses it a lot.
And so,
she's my architect. So
you need to vote for her now.
yes, I vote for her.
So what do you vote? What's her?
I think Anne Marie likes. I think she prefers the cream color, but we use white when we order it. I order it, so I order white, and we call it Trace in these parts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the list, just based upon the Twitter comments I was getting back, we had bumwad, which is a personal hate for me. I don't like that word. Yeah, we don't like that.
I hear that, but I only hear that from specific people that I don't like it either.
I hear it a lot in our office, and it's usually the old timers.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an old school term.
Yeah.
Because where I first heard that was
not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. No, not at all.
No, you're not
Much
talking
respect.
about me. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Was my first boss, and he used that term, but that was centuries ago. But then I heard also from people trace, butter paper was somebody referred to it that way. Trash. I don't get that one. But
Cormac said that one, yeah.
I know,
Yeah,
which surprises me. Flimsy, that's one I have used before. And then sketch is another one. Just sketch paper.
I've heard that term too.
So I think another interesting thing would be to add to the list here. What else is it called? That would be something to people can tweet us about.
Absolutely.
That'd be cool.
And I've gone back and forth. I started... I don't know if it was like one of the first offices, the first guy I worked with. I mean, he had that real bright canary yellow one, and I used that for a long time. But I've gone back and forth. I've used the cream-colored yellow. I've used the white. And for scanning, what? Well, I was going to just say for scanning, it really doesn't matter because I can always remove any background in the scan or afterwards in Photoshop, and it's no work. Usually,
it is.
when I use the cream colored one. When I scan, I don't scan in color. I'll scan in grayscale, and the cream color background just disappears.
Right,
And I only get the line. So it's like I don't even have to actually do any steps to physically remove it. It's just gone.
Sometimes there's a little hint, but
right, and that's
I've got a tutorial on my website about that.
Oh, ooh! We'll put a link in the show notes.
Your
for
URL, your website is
Getmethod.com.
You know, every time you say that on the podcast and I'm not on the air with you, I say, tell them the URL.
It's in there. Yep. It's under my Photoshop tutorials and basically how to clean up dirty scans in Photoshop. So yeah, I'll give you a link in the show notes. Another reason to subscribe to show notes, if you go to our website, you can.
How do you do that?
You can go to archispeakpodcast.com, and on the right side of almost every page, you can just sign up to get the show notes delivered to your email box the day of the show. And I'll have a link in there for that.
And if you're in New Zealand, our one listener there, it'll show up on Monday.
Yeah.
For you. And not on Sunday.
It actually might even be Tuesday. I don't know what day it is over there. They're like it living in the future or the past. I don't remember.
I don't know. Maybe Alistar can tell us.
Yeah.
When we post the show, when it shows up for him.
Yeah, that would be good to know, actually.
That would be good to know.
I went to
appreciate
Australia once, and I did feel like I traveled through time because it took me 24 hours to get door to door. But it was like the day behind. I can't remember. It was a crazy trip, so it was very cool.
Hey,
anyway,
Neil.
so it sounds like
Okay.
everybody here votes for Trace. Neil,
I'm good with that. I'm totally interchangeable. I don't know where flimsy came from. It's just a term I've used before. So,
What'd you guys used to call your animal hide when you were drawing on that?
the what?
Excuse me? I thought we were keeping this one clean.
Cave walls.
Okay, sorry, cave walls.
I don't know,
Did you have
Cormac. You tell me what you'd used on the cave walls, and I'll tell you what we used on the animal hide. Okay? How's that?
Okay, so this is something funny. I notice every time that we have a new intern in the office when one of the elders says, and I think they do it on purpose, it's like, go grab some bumwad and meet me over here at the table.
What?
They look at you twice.
You just see the look in their eyes like, oh, okay. And they kind of walk away in a daze. Yeah.
That sounds like stupid intern tricks or something.
Yeah, it totally is one of those hazing kind of a things.
Oh, we used to do that in the Army, too. It's like, you need to go over and get that TREE device.
And can I put a link to the show notes on what that is?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead and find it.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Go look for the TREE device.
I'll search for that.
Would that be a pencil?
Okay. What is
No.
it?
No?
It's nothing.
Toilet paper?
Spell it out.
Something that comes from a tree. What else could it be?
Just that's it. It's just tree.
Just bring me a tree. Hey, I was trying to
Well, we
take it
used
to the
say,
next level.
We used to say things like, go and get a box of grid squares, those kind of things. Just things that you can mess with a private about,
Nice.
Intern, private, same thing.
Good times.
Good. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about habitat. Oh God, I screwed it up earlier too.
Habitat for Humanity.
Yes,
You just got a bunch of people really excited.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah,
That's not what we're
sorry.
talking about.
That's not-
We're not good.
Sorry.
That's another episode. Tune in tomorrow. No, habits for success. So Evan, you had some ideas, and I know Mark, you did too. So take it away, Evan.
Well, one of the things the reason I was thinking about this topic is because obviously we have Entree Architect on with us, and one of the things I think Mark talks a lot about is building a successful business. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about in architecture as a general topic. Whether you're in school, whether you're just thinking about architecture, or or whether you're trying to get a job, or whether you're actually in the profession, or maybe you've been in the profession for a long time, what are some of the habits that you have seen that make a difference to being successful in this field of architecture? And so, the first one that I can think of, because this is kind of drilled into us when we're in studio, it's something I would have never thought of before architecture school, but it was basically a war on sleep. Architecture, for the most part, is people love to brag about how they haven't got enough sleep, how they did all these all-nighters. When we're in school, it's like no time for sleep, got too many projects, the deadlines are crazy, and it doesn't matter what age you are. For the most part, it's something that it's a topic that always comes up. So I think that is, as far as a habit for success, architecture has a very skewed look at that. And then I also think that, it's something that we should talk about as far as, do you guys think it's important?
Well, don't talk to me about it, because I was just in the office for 2 straight nights, at least till midnight, both nights.
Because
I was trying to get
the world was going to end. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Those RFIs don't answer themselves. I wish they did sometimes, but they don't.
So I mean, why is it that this business is, and I would probably draw a parallel here to students who are doing medical stuff too, where they're working 24, 36-hour shifts, and then they get a couple days off, or nursing. What is it with these professions that shun the idea, or do you want a healthcare professional taking care of you when they haven't had sleep in 24 hours? Are they making clear decisions? Are we making clear decisions for our clients to meet these crazy deadlines? And then in school, same thing.
Yeah, I think in school it's sort of part of the culture. I think it was a lot worse probably when we were in school. I know that currently the AIAS actually has a sort of a program that they developed that's a studio culture document, and they talk about sleep in that, and how it's important and how it's dangerous not to. And I think sleep is very, very important, especially in architecture school. And I think if you think back to especially in my program, the kids who slept were the ones that actually did really well, because they stayed organized and they needed to do what they needed to do, so they went home on time and got things done.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that it's dangerous. I actually lost a friend of mine in architecture school because of an all-nighter.
Yeah, I almost lost 2 friends, but they luckily made it through.
Yeah,
but it was,
he had a head-on collision and died.
Wow.
And so it's pretty serious to, for the students listening to us tonight. I mean, just a really quick sort of serious note. Sleeping in studio is a pretty important thing, because you could end up dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had a near fatal crash of my own from an all-nighter, where I was driving to work the next day from working in studio for about 2.5 days. And the next thing I remembered, I was waking up and I was basically driving straight towards a tree. And thankfully I woke up quick enough to just avoid it. Clipped it, but I was lucky enough to walk away.
Yeah, that's the same story as my friend, except you didn't.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy to me, and I feel like when I was in school, I didn't have any all-nighters. I've actually had more now that I've been working as a professional, but I don't drive home when I'm tired. I'll just sleep at my desk, and if somebody wants to complain about that, go ahead. I couldn't care less. I actually had a friend who fell asleep at his desk one day after he'd worked 28 hours straight, and somebody complained to HR about it, and it was like, you don't. The person who complained was not an architect, but it was like, what's the option? First of all, they didn't look into to see why that was happening, but if they would have, they probably still wouldn't have understood that sometimes we do put in these crazy long hours, but it's better to sleep at your desk than than to try to get home and do it. So
Right.
I think that I think that this is, as far as building habits, this is something that you actually have to make a habit, especially in today's world with digital devices and screens in our faces until 11, 12 o'clock at night. I mean, your brain does not know when to shut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did one all-nighter in college, and it was more because a group of us, the team I was working with, it was like, oh, we can do it. Let's see what it's like. Or they had probably done many of them. And for me, it was like, well, okay, I'll see what this is like. I'll pull an all-nighter. It was during the week. It wasn't during a weekend. So I had school, classes the next morning. And it was kind of weird, being there and the sun's coming up and you're still on campus. And it's like, this is kind of strange. But what I found was I was pretty much wiped out the entire next day.
Yeah, kind of messes everything up.
It messes you up. You go to your other classes, you're falling asleep in your classes. What I found was it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've told this story maybe on the podcast before, or maybe to you guys individually before, but I actually had a history professor at school, architectural history. He also taught design, and he told us, he's like, don't do it. He's like, get at least 4 hours a night. Just stop what you're doing, go home, get 4 or 5 hours a night, come back, and you if you can keep that schedule, you can keep going. I mean, you can keep working for day after day after day if you're only getting those 4 or 5 hours a night. But if you pull one all-nighter, you're going to wipe yourself out for a day or two, and then you're useless.
Right.
So if you want to stay more productive on a more consistent schedule, get those hours of sleep. I'm not talking 8 or 10 hours of sleep at night. But if you can manage the 4 or 5. You can do that all week long.
All right, so I'm going to tell you a story that you guys are going to cringe about. So I went from the Army to, I don't know if your programs had a summer option program for transfer students.
Yeah.
Where basically we had, so it was, for those who don't know what it is, it's just basically you take your full first year of architecture school and roll it up into a summer. So we had these, I got out of active Army and I was in the National Guard, so almost immediately. So I had, to basically, what I was doing was, in the National Guard, was I was an instructor, so I actually had to work every weekend. So I had to fit studio and National Guard duties in basically constantly, nonstop. So for me to be able to get all of my work done that everybody had, like the weekends and all of that other stuff, when I didn't have the weekends, I worked 5 days straight. Not 1 ounce of sleep. And, I mean,
Wow.
So
how do you do that?
So what you're saying is
physically
that's
honestly,
not a habit for success.
well, okay, so here's that's not a habit for success. That's actually a habit for self-destruction.
Yeah.
How did I do it? Now understand that this is 92. I had just gotten out of the desert, so this was Desert Shield, Desert Storm, time frame of life, and we had to stay awake. We had to stay. So I learned how to stay awake.
Wow.
And honestly, for about a good decade and a half, I honestly couldn't sleep more than 3 hours a day. It was physically impossible.
So you made
for me.
another habit, yeah.
So I made, so that created a bad habit in itself. I wish I was more productive in in those waking hours, but I was just unable to sleep more than 3 hours a day. And so I was just like, if I'm only sleeping 3 hours a day, then, I can go without it. And I did on numerous occasions. So it was crazy. Yeah. So
what is it? Yeah. I was just going to say, what is it about, because Evan, when you started this conversation about this war on sleep, but bragging about not sleeping, You know, why is that? Why do people like in school like, oh, I pulled off five or six all-nighters this quarter or something like that? It's like,
To me, that says that you're extremely unorganized.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, whereas my case, I was literally trying to fit 2 jobs into 1 week.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
mine was more of a necessity thing. I trust me, I would have loved to have slept, and I would have loved to have, you know, had developed a culture of being able to manage my time. And I think that's, you know, I think, Neil, you're right. I mean, sorry, Evan, you actually said it. I mean, it's important to
I'll take
manage well, but I mean, it's extremely important to manage your time. And, you know, these all-nighters and stuff basically mean that, you know, you're not really, you know, you're doing the project an injustice. You know, you're doing, you know, the client injustice, because what you're doing is you're I think we talked about this before, is that you're not truly tracking what it takes for you to complete that job.
Yeah.
right.
And so you're
yeah.
just throwing time and all this other stuff in it. And
Well, and you're probably not giving your best work, right? I mean, you're-
exactly.
And
exactly.
so, again, you are doing a disservice.
Exactly. You know, and it's weird, this little kind of rite of passage, you know, that, you know, it's like, oh, I didn't sleep for 5
screwed
straight
up.
days, and look at how cool I am. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's totally screwed up. Yeah, we should abolish that. And you know what and I guess part of the thing that, one thing I like about the stuff that you've been writing lately, Mark, is when you're saying, you know, it's up to us to design the future of the profession.
Right.
And it's things like this that I want to abolish.
Right.
And we have the power to do that.
Yeah, I think students can do that. I think students that the older students in studio should start doing that now, so they can sort of change the culture for the younger students.
You don't have to ask permission to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the professors who expect or demand that you spend? You know, I mean, we had professors who
they can't demand that. They can demand that you do a certain amount of work, but they don't have to demand. They can't demand when you do it.
Yeah.
Well,
And
another
I don't
example.
think there's too many that are demanding that you stay up all night.
Well, you know, I had a professor in that summer option program that they used to come to studio to check on your work at midnight to make sure you were there working and, you know, what you were doing and all that other stuff. I mean, so it was like you were expected to be there
Really?
all the time.
Do you think that happens nowadays with the way that people
I hope not.
can report that stuff?
I
and
don't
get
think that
online
happens
and-
anymore.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
either.
I had a professor one time, and this was the night before our crit. He came into, now he told us this, I mean, this was part of the plan. He said, I'm going to be here at like 8 or 9, I forget, and I will shut everything down.
Yeah.
That is the deadline. I want you all to get a good night's sleep before your crits, and I'm not going to let you work all night before the crit. So, and he did. So he showed up at 8, 9, ushered everybody out, locked the doors, and said, okay, we're done. See you guys all tomorrow.
Yeah, I know now at Cal Poly they make students turn in their thesis project at a certain time, and they don't do the presentations until several days later.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody has a deadline of when it gets turned in. But unlike when I was in school, where I was out in the courtyard rendering in my dad's van on my computer until 15 minutes before my presentation,
Oh, wow.
up all night, that doesn't happen anymore. You have to turn it in,
Right.
and then there's mandatory time off so that you can study for all of your other classes and take those finals
Uh-huh.
before you do your final presentations.
I like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's smart, and this is just one of those things. And the other thing that scares the crap out of me is, you know, when we were in school and we were building all these physical models out of basswood and stuff, and people were using power tools at 4 a.m. and it wasn't until someone got seriously hurt that they had a curfew on power tools, and they even had to make a policy that you can't even bring your own power tools. You have to use the wood shop. Well, the nice thing about that was the wood shop got locked up at 9
Yeah.
p.m.
Right.
I worked in the wood shop throughout college, and we actually closed it up at 7.
Yeah,
You know, kind of pissed everybody off that they couldn't use it, but, you know, the one thing that the guy, you know, the actual, you know, guy who ran it, he he was adamant about safety, and he was just like, no, you guys have been up all night. I've seen people lose fingers. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Wow. Let me pose this. And maybe it's not necessarily that it's this rite of passage or anything, but if you think about how, the demands in the profession of, you have a client meeting, they say, okay, I like all of this, but I want to make these changes. How quickly can you do it? So, you come up with some unrealistic thing. Oh, I could have it in 2 days,
Or someone else does on your behalf.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
they're like, and you're demanded to turn it around almost immediately. So there's only one way for you to do that. Yeah. Something's going to have to give, and what is that thing? Sleep.
Okay, but Mark, comment on this too, because what I've started to do more often is that, yes, I could probably turn around some changes like that in a day or so, but I know that I've got other things happening, or like today, my daughter got sick at school, so I had to go pick her up, and poof, there went my afternoon. So if I had told somebody you were going to have something tomorrow, I would be doing it tonight. But what I've started to do is give more, it seems kind of crazy, but it's like, okay, if I meet with somebody today, like I did, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll have that for you by the end of the week. And even though it may only take me a day or a day and a half or something, it's like all those other things that come up is going to take me more time. So by saying the end of the week, I can reasonably get it done in amongst all the other things that I will end up having to do. Or my daughter gets sick. Okay, boom, I've lost some time. Do I have to stay up tonight? No, because I told them realistically, end of the week. Well, and they're not upset because they don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Is, if we're talking about habits for success,
that's a good habit.
Establishing realistic deadlines
and boundaries.
Well, Mark, in your practice, how do you handle something? I mean, what do you tell people when that sort of situation comes up? Do you give them more time that you really know it will take you, just so that you can fit other things in between?
Exactly. I under promise and over deliver. So
okay.
I always try to set expectations with a client and let them know what's going to happen and how long things are going to take. And I always give myself a lot more time than I need to. And then that way, if I finish it early, I could submit it early. And then they're like, well, hey, this is great. This is much earlier than I expected.
Right.
And then, and I think it goes back to what Evan said before, is that we get to design our own business. It's our business. It's our process. And most clients haven't gone through this process before, so they don't really know what to expect. So when we set unreasonable deadlines for ourselves, it's often self-imposed. It's us trying to be superheroes, trying to make the client love us, and they don't even know the difference. If you got it done, if you told them that it was going to take a week and it should take 2 weeks, they're not going to know the difference. They're just going to know that you missed their deadline. And if you told them 2 weeks and it only took them a week, then you're a superhero.
And when you're in charge of your own schedule, that's one thing. But when somebody else is out at that meeting and they make that promise, and one of my favorite things to say is, well, you should have checked with me first.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to disappoint the client, but at the same time, like, I have these certain boundaries and I have these responsibilities and I have all of these other things on my plate right now. So you should have checked with me first, and I'll do what I can, but I can't promise that I'll get it to you at that time.
Well, another habit for success in that, if that, what you hopefully can get those people that are making those promises to do is to say, let me get back to you later today on that.
Yeah.
Let me go confer with the team, and we'll get back to you by the end of the day or by tomorrow with an update on the schedule. And that's not an unrealistic thing to say to a client.
Yeah, that's a great habit, actually.
Yeah. But we seem to be, and I don't know if it was because of the climate of the recessions, multiples, not just this more recent one, where we were always, thankful for the project, that we just aren't able to say no. And from that, inability to say no, we also, say, well, whatever you need, whatever you want, and they don't know what they want. You guys were absolutely right. They don't know. They have no expectations on the process of architecture. And so you're right, Mark. We self-impose ourselves on this, and we get ourselves into this situation. It's like, well, you said it. It's like, you say it's going to take, 2 weeks, but you say that it's going to take 1 week, but it really is going to take 2 weeks. Now you're asking for more time. Now you look like a schmuck. Now you've set a bad tone with this client. And even if the project gets done successful, they're going to have all these little things in their mind. Right. Are they going to be a repeat customer? Probably not.
All these little missed deadlines that didn't really need to be missed deadlines.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like Evan said, I think it is easy when you're a sole proprietor or a relatively small firm where you can make those decisions on your own. But when you do have someone else making those decisions for you, I wonder if that's something that needs to be addressed with a policy where, that those decisions aren't allowed to be made without some time involved.
Yeah, I often find that the person also who makes those promises is usually disconnected. They're not usually the people who know what it takes to do the work.
Right.
They're people who
So if there was a firm policy that decisions like that couldn't be made, without, a few hours or speaking with X
just
number
doing
of
what
people.
Neil said. Yeah, it's just, let me check with my team and I'll get back to you today.
Right.
I'll let you know today, but it's not going to be...
But if you formalize that, then you can create that as a habit in your firm.
Right.
But going back to what I was saying is that, you don't... A lot of the people who are making that snap decision that are disconnected, Evan, they don't want to disappoint the client.
Right.
They feel like any time that you have a hesitation, that's a disappointment. Yeah. No, that's it's a calculated effort to give them the best service.
Right.
And
change your perspective. Yeah.
That's a bad habit, Cormac. Right? That's a bad habit.
Totally.
So we need to change that. That's a habit not for success again.
In more recent times, yes, that is an extremely bad habit.
Right.
Because for some reason, in I don't know, I mean, slightly off topic, but everybody seems to be, when everybody's going after the same project and you're undercutting each other and everything else, you will promise them the world.
Well, and you're hurting the profession by doing
that. Absolutely.
Which is hurting you,
Which is hurting you, which is hurting the client, which is hurting that project. I mean, it just snowballs into bad service, and then, people are like, I hate working with architects because, they miss these deadlines, they promise this, they don't do it, they come up with crappy designs because they're working all night, So, it's just, we need to, I think that also leads into, this, like, sleep deprivation and everything else. I mean, it leads into our other favorite, pastime, which is procrastination.
Yeah.
Terrible habit.
No. It's just like, well, I'll get to it. And then, it's like, oh, crap, I got to do it. And, I've got to be done with this in an hour. And then what are you really going to get? What kind of quality service are you giving the client, with like limited, attention to the project?
I find that most clients, especially small firm clients, are relatively reasonable people. That even if they expect something and they almost demand it, if you tell them the reality of the situation and you explain to them the process that you have to go through in order to do that, and say that, that you need X number of hours and an X number of days to accomplish the task in order to provide them the service that they expect, most of them then back off on that, and they say, oh, well, I'm going to give them the time they need, and then they respect you more as well because you're being honest with them and you're showing them what you need to do in order to get the job done.
And then there's the reality of the bureaucracy that Evan and I sometimes deal with.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking in a different world. I've been in your world, so I know that.
I know. Yeah, because you have those clients that, they're dependent on, they've got a deadline for submissions for, like, say, state funding or something like that.
Right.
And so, you've got to meet their deadlines, and then their deadlines never really meet up with yours because, say, for instance, the proposal, you go back and forth with your fees and everything else, and it takes a while to sign all of that and stuff, Are they expecting you to start work without a contract? Every time.
Yep.
That's why I'm not doing that work anymore.
Well, and I think something that's, my friend, a different Mark, he recently had the experience where the district was really pushing to get the school that hadn't been designed yet open fall of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the point where, we were getting pushed really hard to get the school. We had designed the school once. They ended up finding arsenic in the site. They ended up having to pick a new site, which means we have to redesign the school. But they didn't want to change that date.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you have to hit the date, you have to hit the date, you have to hit the date. And it was like, okay, well, if we just step back and look at this objectively, if we turn in a crappy project because we had to hit this date,
right,
they will remember us forever.
Oh, yeah.
But people will absolutely forgive and forget
right.
if you're 6 months late on delivering a project of this scale. And that doesn't always work, but that works a lot of the time. And it goes back to what you guys are talking about, where the clients will understand, or they are going to have to understand, that we cannot work like that because this stuff takes time. It takes what it takes to get it done and do it the right way. And if you want to come back to us 5, 4, 3 years from now and say, this is absolute crap work, you're never going to work with us again, we're going to sue you for this, this, and this, was it worth it?
Right.
And we're not playing the long game when we're doing things like that.
It's much better to disappoint your client up front than to disappoint them at the end, because they'll forget about it in the beginning.
Right.
They'll be upset with you, and they'll be angry, and they'll be they'll do all the threats, but if you get through that and you finish the project beautifully and it's done and it works really well, they forget that. They just look at the project that you've done and they're happy with it.
Yeah, I think the misconception comes from projects at people's houses, right? You hire a contractor to pour the slab in the backyard, or to build the awning, or to do whatever. And what is it? It's like the average amount of time that people live in a house it's pretty short, right? It's less than 10 years before they move to another house. And they're not thinking of these projects at this scale that need to last 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And so when you get 20 years into the future and it no longer meets the needs or the expectations of the people who are using these facilities, it's a huge disappointment to them. And what are they going to do at that point? They got to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars fixing your mistakes because you didn't take the time to do it right the first time. And maybe that's not in your control, in fake quotation marks, but it's only because you didn't say anything.
Right.
It's a terrible position to be in. So again, I think building habits for success, one of those things that I guess we should state as one of the bullet points is speak up. Speak up early, speak up often, and include people into what it takes to get the job done. Because I think a lot of times this profession that we're in is treated as a drive-through.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you said that, because and we've talked about it before, but the open communication with your client is extraordinarily important, and talking to them and keeping them constantly involved and constantly updated about, the project status, possible, potential pitfalls, some things that might cause delays. Keeping them constantly involved makes them feel a part of the project all the way through, and it gives them equal ownership of the project. But a lot of times we tend to hide things from them because we don't want to look like the idiot that, oops, this happened or that happened. And things do happen on projects, like
it's
finding
a very messy process.
Like finding arsenic in the soil,
Right.
Sometimes that happens, and sometimes the project has to move and change. But, when you feel like you have to hide something from your client, because you just don't want to look like the idiot,
You pick up the phone.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's what you need to do. So another habit of success bullet point is constant communication with your clients.
Yeah. I have one, setting expectations with your clients. Because if you set the expectation that there's going to be that big bomb somewhere in the middle of the project, because it happens on every project, then when it happens, you can go back and say, hey, remember when we had that big conversation about you're going to have a big crisis in the middle of your project? Well, here it is, and this is what we're going to do about it. And then it's not such a crisis.
Absolutely. We've all done this long enough to know that projects don't go smoothly. Something happens somewhere. There are a lot of things that are, out of our control. Well, I didn't know, normally it takes 6 weeks to go through permitting. I didn't realize it was going to go, 3 weeks, 3 months or something like that. There's those little things. So you're right. Letting them know up front, there are these potentials of things. And I want you to understand that, I'm here to make this process go as smoothly as possible. But when we do run into those roadblocks, I'm here for you to help guide it through.
Right. And we've been through this before, so it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And if you come to those kind of meetings with multiple ideas for solutions,
exactly,
that always goes over really well rather than the massive freak out.
The very first book that I was ever given, pre-architecture school at all, when somebody found out that I wanted to go to architecture school, somebody gave me a book. It was a project management book for architects, but it was called Problem Solving. And from that point on, I always looked at us as problem solvers. Not, problem as a bad problem, but, just that's what we're here for. We're here to find the solutions to get things done quick, easy, or not easy, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to, deliver to the client is, our problem-solving expertise.
All right, I have another one. One of the things that we really struggle with, and we hit on this a little bit earlier, is saying no. And I really feel like this is a habit that people have a really hard time. It kind of falls in hand with something that you've been preaching about, Mark, on your podcast, which is talking about money.
Yeah.
It's like this taboo, this word that cannot be uttered from our mouths. And this goes back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, where if somebody asks for something, whether it's in the office or if it's a client, first of all, you don't have to say yes right away, and you don't have to say no right away. But there are a lot of things that are distractions that are built into what we're doing that we could easily say no to, that makes no difference in the long run. Like it would have been something that could have never even been brought up, and we won't miss it. And it's not going to hurt our business at all. There's a lot of things that we get asked to do that we, like you said, Cormac, those are the people making a lot of those decisions only want to say yes to the client. And this is one of the things that I learned when I worked at Apple was learn how to say no by saying yes. And there's a lot of ways that you can say yes to a client that is completely different so that they don't have to hear the word no, but you're still not going to promise to do something that you shouldn't or couldn't do.
Let me ask a for instance on that no or that mindset. Say you've worked with a client. This is a for instance, not an example that I've lived through by any means.
Asking for a friend?
Yeah, asking for a friend. Okay, we've had this situation, I'm sure all of us have had this situation in our careers, where you've worked with a client before, and they're good clients, in fact, great clients, and any client's a great client, but the return clients are sometimes greater. God, that sounded stupid, but anyway. But
that's another Cormacism.
Yeah, but okay, so you give them a proposal. They've got a deadline that you need to meet, and you go back and forth with it, and they're expecting you to, start working, even though it's going to take 2 to possibly 3 months to negotiate your contract and stuff. do you say no money, no work? Or do you say, well, you're good for it. I'm going to convince, not only my staff, but also my consultants to go ahead and start working on the promise that we will eventually get paid. Because we do that to ourselves a lot as a profession, because we can't say no. So I just want to get your take on that, because it's something that we do to ourselves all the time.
Well, for me, it's we're in different markets, but I say no all the time to situations like that. We won't work without a contract and without getting an initial payment. We won't do pre-designed stuff. We won't do, show me a design and then I'll hire you. We won't do any of that. We're lucky to be in a very thriving market, though, just outside of New York City. So I know that other firms don't really have that luxury, but we've worked hard to build a reputation and to build a strong brand, and so we have a lot of work coming in, and so I can say no to clients like that.
Cormac, let me give you an example
Okay.
of not necessarily saying no, but going off of what Mark just said. I've been on, and I've started to change this with my own small practice, which, I'll get a call, I'll go meet somebody, and they'll start talking to me about what they want to do, and me just kind of being the gregarious architect, just, I think you can, you could probably do this, and you can move this over here. I talk through the whole damn design, and then I never get around to, I'm going to send you a proposal, and then I never hear from them again. Because, okay, they got their answers, and I've never even had to say no, because I just gave them all the answers, and I didn't even get the job. So recently I've been going, when I go to people, I listen, and you could probably do that, let me get you a proposal, and I can start some design work for you. But no, I'm like Mark, it's a different sort of market than I know you guys are in, but I'm not going to do work for without some sort of payment.
Well, we do.
I do share a lot of information at my interviews, though. What you just described, I do that a lot.
Well, I mean,
but
because
that sort of pre-qualifies you as an architect to show them that you know what you're doing.
Exactly. I mean, that's
fair enough.
It's the catch-22 of you are trying to tell them, why you're qualified to have this job. You're selling yourself. Right. And then, unfortunately, Neil, if they're walking away from you because they got the question, their question answered, you probably didn't really want to work with them anyway.
Right.
Well, that may be true, but trying to take a different tact and approach to it, not necessarily giving them the design up front, but more of agreeing or saying, yeah, you could probably do this or this, and I can design that for you. It's more kind of changing the conversation a little bit and following up with, do you want fries with that, right? It's like, bam, here's your proposal with that. And then you can hire me to do some design work for you. So it's more kind of twisting it around and changing that conversation so that it can be, you can have a better habit for success of getting that proposal. I've also changed my, actually with a thank you nod to Mark, modifying how I do my contracts so that they're easier for me to generate much faster, so that I can actually finish that conversation with I'll send you a proposal, and spend, no more time than the notes I took while we were having our conversation. That becomes the scope of the project, essentially. I bonify that. I put a dollar number to some of those phases, and bam, the contract goes out. So I've maybe spent, 45 minutes to an hour meeting with them, a half an hour getting a proposal out, and I'm done. And then there's a proposal in their hands. It has a date on it that says this proposal is good for X number of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and that gives me a chance to reasonably follow up with them, to remind them, say if it's 3 weeks out, a week or two in, hey, by the way, that contract's still good for another week. Do you want to move forward with it? And that way it doesn't seem like I'm bugging them. And, so to try and do things a little bit differently so that it can be a better habit for more successful obtaining of some projects.
Back to your question, Cormac.
Yeah.
I feel like in our line of work, we're constantly starting work without a contract.
Mm-hmm.
The contract negotiations take forever. The clients always reject the architect's contract and they want to use their own. There's legal on both sides, crossing things out, changing things, and it's pretty crazy how much we will invest into these projects before getting paid a penny.
Oh yeah, because at the end of the day when you're, when we're talking more like schoolwork and stuff. But I mean, if you were, they have to move in. Say it's a 2-year process or whatever for design, construction or whatever, possibly 3 or 4. They have a specific move-in day. They can't push that. They can't change that. So everything hinges on basically hitting the ground running, whether you have a contract or not. And, we do that often. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I mean, we know these clients. We do work with them a lot, and they're great clients. And, we don't really mistrust them or anything like that. It's just, but I mean, just thinking, broadly, not necessarily, being too specific, but, as a profession as a whole, I mean, a lot of times we do that. I do remember, Mark, that when I was, solo on my own for a while, we did that. We got money up front, we, had the contract signed before we began work. I mean, sometimes if we were really comfortable with the client, we might do a little bit of like, conceptual work for them because they're going out to kind of like do fundraising for some development or something like that.
Right.
Because we knew that, in the end, we were getting something out of it as well. We would be getting the job, potentially even more projects because we're kind of putting our name, with it and stuff like that. But, it's just, I mean, we I don't know, it's just one of those things that I always ponder about because it's like, why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we stick our necks out there? And there was many a times, because unfortunately, I started, me and my buddy from college, we started our business right at the time when we were, maybe a year and a half, 2 years before the residential market started to feel this last recession. So we were sticking our necks out a little bit more than we wanted to because we were just started. We wanted to get out there. We wanted everybody to know us. So, we were doing work and we were giving work away. And, it basically, I learned my lesson from basically, 5 years of solo practice, then basically getting slapped back to earth because we had all these contracts that, either people owed us money that, we never signed a contract with them, and they just basically said, all right, I'm done, and walked away.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of gun shy every time I hear somebody tell me a story about, going in and doing, months worth of work without a signed contract.
Well, Cormac, I think you set the stage there probably perfectly. I think in my example and in Mark's example, we're dealing with a completely different scope of project and a different sort of client than you are, and so Mark and I have described some ways to be successful with that, or that we've found to be successful with that. I think in your case, you described several habits for success in going that route with the bigger. I mean, you said these are great clients. You've worked with them before. You know them. You've been paid by projects before. And so all of those things when you're dealing with these big projects, those are probably the different things that you can do so you'll be successful even though you've started work early. I think the danger is when you've got all of those things are not true. These are new clients, you don't know them, and you're putting work out there for the hope of being paid. And that's probably a bad habit.
Yeah,
that's something you don't want to. Yeah, that you don't want to do that. But in your case, you're talking about existing clients, and also too, you're talking, big scope projects where, Mark and I are probably talking projects that are, in the 4 and 5 digit range. You're talking about projects in the 6 digit range, right? So a 6 and 7 digit range.
6
so
and 7,
these,
yeah.
Yeah, so they're different scale of projects, so you can afford maybe not, I mean, it's probably a burden on the company, certainly, but when they're talking 6 and 7 digit figure fees for these things, you can afford to probably spend a little bit of time up front, because the reward is on the back, is coming,
yeah.
and it's going to happen. And so you can probably do that. So there's less risk. I guess that's what we're getting at, is the projects that Mark and I are talking about, they're not as risky by doing that. And I think what you're describing when you were on your own is you were being very risky.
Yeah.
And that's just a bad habit. That's
Well,
that's even if you're a brand new firm. You don't want to set your client's expectation that A, your time is not important, and B, that you're not worth the service that they're paying for. And I think by putting your work out there for free or giving it away in the initial meeting where you completely describe the design out to them is bad habits.
Yeah.
That you're setting for yourself.
Well, I can say in hindsight that, a lot of it was just, naive. I was completely naive in the way that I approached business and kind of perceived, clients as, just some, they were, I just misjudged a lot to
And you didn't have entrepreneur architect on your side.
I did.
That's right.
Did not. And honestly, Mark, to sing a little bit of your praises. I mean, the website and the podcast are great because, there are a lot of people who feel like that they can kind of go it alone. Oh, I've got my license, or I've done this long enough. I'm ready to hit the road and start my own thing. But the one thing that we have a lot of trouble with, especially since, school doesn't prepare us for that, is to run our own business.
Right.
I mean, we've my old, business partner and I talked about it. I mean, for the most creative of professions, we are the least creative when it comes to business. And, and we... so, I mean, we kind of, in a way, we set the stage for our own demise because we just weren't ready or we didn't prepare ourselves. And, websites like yours, it's a fantastic tool. And I definitely suggest everybody who might even remotely be thinking of going it on their own, hit Mark's website, reach out to him and just, listen to all of his podcasts, and you'll learn some valuable tools.
Thank you, Cormac. I appreciate that.
Mark, go ahead and say the URL since
yes,
you mentioned
say the
that
URL.
earlier.
It's
say the
entrearchitect.com.
Thank you. Since you said you were screaming at Evan, you never said the URL. I'm softball. There it is.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Put it right up
I wanted to, but I didn't want to overstep my bounds. I'm a guest
here.
here.
No. There's, well, you're a guest here, but act like us. Just blurt out whatever you want.
And don't worry, it's going to be in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess we talked about three or four different things that would be good habits for success. I guess the important part is to make those things habits.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be successful in architecture, coming from people who do this all the time, these are things that will help you get successful in this business. I can't emphasize enough getting enough sleep. It makes you appear and actually be smarter when it comes to your business. Saying no to people, you have to practice that. It doesn't come out naturally to say no, but you have to say it when it's right. And when it comes to working with contracts and getting paid for your work, you've got to get that stuff going early. You can't be shy about any of these things. You can't be shy about your boundaries. You can't be shy about your contracts. You can't be shy about doing things that aren't what you're supposed to be doing. So I can't emphasize enough that these are all, there's only a few, but
I have one more
habits. Yeah,
I have one more for you. Raise your fees.
That's right. You were talking about that recently.
Charge more.
Because you're worth more.
You're worth more. We're all undercharging. And I think if we all start charging more, then our profession will be more valued.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't, because we're not usually in the position of paying for these kind of services. But every time we have a legal issue or something, we pay for them, and nobody questions when that comes up. I think you're right. It's the kind of thing where you're providing such a huge value to your clients, and if you're not confident in the value that you're providing to them, then you're not going to charge enough. So we need to be a lot more confident about the value that we're providing to clients.
That's a very important point. Is that if you're going to charge more and you're going to raise your fees, make sure your value is commensurate with that,
and provide something exceptional.
Exactly.
And
make sure you're worth it.
Let me give you a quick example. Working on this kitchen and living area remodel of this house, and it's a little complicated, but so the premise here is that these people have been thinking about doing this for several years, and to them, they haven't been able to figure out how to make this work. And so, we're doing the project. I step in no more than like 3 weeks ago and provide them a solution. I'm in a meeting with them today, and the wife is just looking at this, and the husband too, and she just goes, I love this. I love what you've done. This is incredible. It's like we've been trying to figure out how to make this better for years, and you stepped in like 2 or 3 weeks. We're done. We're approved. Get started on the CDs. We want to do this. And so when Mark's saying raise your fees, the value that me as an architect, I'm not trying to pat myself here on the back, but just what I'm trying to say is that the value that architects are providing to their clients in this example, it's like they're happy as hell to write me this check for the design phase, because I just solved a problem that they could not figure out for the last several years.
They value what you did more than they value that money.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And that is absolutely key to what we're doing. For anybody who wants to make money in anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the truth. I mean, that's what it is.
And so like Mark said, if you bring that value, they're happy to pay the fee.
Absolutely.
But in where we've gone wrong is, because I'm always the one to bring up where we go wrong.
Uncle Cormac's gonna poo-poo on the day.
No,
here.
it's just what we end up doing is we'll have those clients.
Wait a minute, that should be Grandpa Cormac, right?
Oh no, man, that's you.
No, you're getting closer.
That's Uncle Grandpa to you.
All right, go ahead.
Although that's trademarked by the comedy or the Cartoon Network, so I can't say that. It's a TV show.
Evan,
I'll beep it.
Evan. Yeah.
Anyway, so this, one of the issues that we have is that when we're negotiating our fees and stuff, there'll be those clients that'll say, well, that's too expensive. Why would I pay that much money when I can go to this guy and Neil's given a fee proposal for X amount of dollars, and he's like, well, I talked with Evan, and Evan said that he'll do it for this percentage less. We're doing that to ourselves, where we're basically each other, because we feel this, because we've had such a hard time in the past few, years of, even getting jobs, where we are undercutting ourselves, and, we're just doing, in a way, I see irreparable damage to our profession when we're out there cutting each other's throats. Mm-hmm. And so, you're right, Mark. I mean, we need to charge more, but then we get worried that, well, if I charge more, they're going to say no, and some other guy's going to come and steal the project from me. So,
that's right, and that's where you're providing. You have to provide. You have to come to grips with the fact that you have to provide an exceptional thing.
Right.
And they're not going to get that from somebody else. And if they are, then those people are going to lose their shirts.
A strong, healthy business doesn't compete on fee.
That's right.
Oh,
well, okay. So another good example of that is that coming off what Mark just said. You're not competing on fee. One of the interesting things is that, you throw out a proposal and you get somebody back and they say, okay, I want to, cut a few $100s here, a few $100s there. Again, I'm talking small scale project here for residential. But I had a friend of mine, I talked to him about it recently, and he said that, no, he doesn't begin that negotiation. He just says, no, this is the value that I'm bringing to the project, and this is what I charge for that value.
Yeah, that's how we do it too.
Okay, and he said one of the reasons he doesn't begin that negotiation is that if they get a certain amount cut off their fee, then if it's a successful project, then they refer you to somebody else to another person. What's the first thing they're going to tell that person? Oh, well, you know what? Don't take that first price he gives you. He'll cut you a deal if you negotiate a little bit, right? Yeah. And so you've set the precedent. That's a bad habit for a successful firm. By continuing to negotiate on your fee, then they're going to tell the next person, they're going to tell the next person, and suddenly, you're getting less and less, and you're in this constant battle of this negotiation.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is you're talking about the race to the bottom.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about the race to the bottom is that somebody's always going to win.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help our profession either. I mean, really, if people are going to compete on price, yes, there's always somebody looking for the lowest price, right? But what do they get for the lowest price? It's a painful process.
Well, Mark, you recently had on your podcast, and I know you've written about this too, is we need to talk about this stuff. We need to talk about fees amongst ourselves.
That's right.
And so at the beginning of this year, you inspired me to do this. I had like 3 meetings in a row with colleagues of mine that we've all used to work together. We're all out on our own now. I was very upfront with them and talking about fees.
And you
talking
shocked
about
them, right?
how. I don't know if I shocked them so much, but we were able to get past that and talk about it.
Yeah, I love talking about fees because it always shakes things up.
Why is that such a taboo with everybody? Why?
I don't
why
know.
Are architects afraid to talk about money?
Well, part of that case, at least for us, is we all live in the same vicinity, and we do kind of compete against each other in that sense. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? I am tired of being not successful. So damn it, I'm going to find out what my friends are doing that are being successful, and I am just going to ask the questions.
And if you all work together and help each other become successful, then you all become successful. Fortunately, Mark, that is exactly what happened. Yeah. And I'm thrilled, and I want to thank you for, kind of inspiring me to do that, because it's proven to be successful, and it's so far been a good start to the year for me. You're welcome. That's the entire mission behind Entrepreneur Architect, is to share what I know and encourage others to do the same.
I feel like something that a lot of us deal with kind of on the same level as what you're talking about there, Neil and Cormac, is if you see someone else's business that you like, you should absolutely copy it. We need to get over the fact that there are things that we feel like we tell ourselves, oh, I can't copy that. Because the fact of the matter is, and I know that Mark believes this too, because he tells everybody exactly what he's doing, is that you are going to put your own spin on everything. It's just natural. And you are not going to copy them exactly. But if you start to look at the way businesses that are successful are operating, the way that they're handling projects and clients, if you imitate that, if you copy that, and you're going to put your own spin on that, you're going to start having more successful projects, and you're going to have a more successful business, and we shouldn't be afraid to do that. I mean, really, if we want to raise our game, that's definitely something we should be doing. And you should be applying other industries' business models to architecture. There is not a prescribed way to do this.
See, because at the end of the day, with what people like Mark are doing, is if you're enriching the profession, the architecture, I mean, just the actual what we got into this to do is to create buildings, they actually become better too. Because everything about your business translates into the work that you do. And, you're going to strive to do better work to get that better fee, to deserve that, the better value, providing the better value and all that other stuff. And it's,
which project
and it's a win-win.
Which project's going to turn out better? The one where you're excited to work on it because you're making a decent fee and the client's all involved, or the one where you're every minute that you're toiling away at your desk because you're getting a crappy fee and you're bad-mouthing the client the whole time and the project just sucks and sucks? Which one's going to turn out better?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I can tell you which one you're not going to get a referral from.
oh, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the adage of you get what you pay for is very, very true when it comes to architecture.
Yep, I agree.
Well, I think that's a wrap, guys.
Sounds good.
Well, that was
All right.
fun. We should do that again sometime.
Absolutely.
We will. So if you have questions or comments, visit the website at archispeakpodcast.com. We have links to our Twitter accounts and our Facebook page where you can join in on this conversation and others. And please, if you've got comments about this or you have your architectural horror experience of the week, call the Archispeak Podcast helpline at 415-484-8496.
Or
And,
how about a success?
Or a success.
Not just your horror story.
Well, the horror stories are more fun, but, give us a success story. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also don't forget to leave a review on iTunes. We especially like those too.
And thanks for Mark.
And thanks for Mark.
Absolutely.
Yes, thanks
Thank
for
you, Mark.
joining us.
Thank
And,
you. Thank
hey,
you,
Mark,
guys.
where's the best place for people to find you?
You can find me anywhere at Entree Architect. You go to Twitter, Entree Architect, Facebook, I'm there, or entrearchitect.com. And before I go, I want to thank you guys for everything you do. I think you guys are doing a tremendous service to the profession in these conversations, sort of doing very similar things that I'm doing, is kind of just opening up the communication and talking about the things that people don't talk about. And I think you guys do a fabulous job at it, and you keep us all entertained while we're doing it. So thank you.
Thanks. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
A group hug here, guys. Yeah. All right. Well, everyone stay subscribed, and thanks for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I used to shy away from the stampede. I'd hibernate, hunker down in my hobby hole to get good at the game. I had to grease up my riot gear, and that craving came when you crossed along, yeah, when you came along. Jim and Dog dared me, turn the sprinklers on, barefoot in the driveway, baby. Platform dancing, form like a crazy man. Someone who proudly tumbled, diving face first, fat with chances, braving birthday suited. Oh, baby girl, Jim and Dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. I get naked when I wake up in my birthday suit. Not a piece of creation. I wanna shake my mom, I gave mom, I gave mom, I gave mom to say thank you. What would I have what I want to do? I'm a perfect relation. I wanna shake, I got love for you, love for you, love for you, love for you. I got love for you. I got love for you. I got love for you. I used to shy away from the limelight. I tucked my face up tight in my sleeping bag to build a better base. I had to fly my war paint right. I'm a better place since you made me upright. Love is never fight. Triple dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. Platform dancing, form like a crazy fan. Someone damn it, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the dry.